Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. A little bit, it looks like it's going to rain maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. My early prediction is a isolated shower kind of day.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. But of course, we're going to be getting into our weather a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot to discuss in the meantime. Mm-hmm. Marlene and I were talking just before we got started about the new measures, some of which are it's a mix of new and old.
Yeah.
Because as of yesterday, as the Ministry of Health did announce by a press release that the regulations, which did finish on Sunday, were going to be amended. And so we're going back to a 9 p.m. curfew. So there's a curfew between the hours of 9 p.m. and 4 a.m., which is a bit of a relax from the 7 p.m. that has been in place for the past 2 weeks. And there's also some other interesting developments which also came out from that, in that the requirement for the vaccination requirement to enter government buildings also came into effect. And it also seems that vaccination is also required for dining in at restaurants.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I know we had a report in the news from a group of restaurateurs who were talking about lobbying specifically for this particular measure. They were saying, they understand that they're in COVID times, they need to survive, and that essentially they were okay with moving towards only allowing vaccinated persons to be in the restaurant. So that is a development there that I assume that restaurateurs must be happy with. It does still have a capacity linked to it. So outdoor dining is at 75%, and indoor is, well, I should say open air ventilated restaurants, those that aren't enclosed with air conditioning, are allowed to have 75%, while those that are enclosed are allowed to have 50%. So, and that is for vaccinated persons only.
Yes, and if you're looking at the screen, you'll also see that contact sports are still not allowed, and churches and casinos are still to remain closed at this time. Mm-hmm. And of course, this is just the latest development, and it might seem it's sometimes hard to keep up with, but at the same time, this is something that the entire world is going through. Yeah. As we learn more about the science that from COVID-19. There was also an update from the ministry yesterday in relation to the weekend tally of cases over the weekend, and unfortunately we did see a big number of recorded cases being over 400, 400 new active cases. And there were also 4 deaths to note, to take that which occurred over the weekend. Yeah. Of course, very unfortunate, but the figures which were released yesterday are more or less consistent with what we have been seeing over the past maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, because I had the same reaction. It was I saw the COVID update following the announcement of new measures, and you see 400 and you're like, what, we're relaxing? And then I'm reminded, of course, that is the weekend tally and Monday tally included. I think clearly what is necessary is an update to know whether or not we are seeing the downward part of this particular spike in cases, because that's what is essential for us to be able to know that we are making progress. The hospitalizations, of course, continue to be of concern. I know that when you look at the data and you see specifically that fully vaccinated persons are also losing their lives, that's a reminder to all of us that we still have to maintain all these protocols, even if you're fully vaccinated. But as you can see by the numbers that are on the screen, the risk is far greater for those who are unvaccinated.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, we spoke a little bit, or we actually not even a little bit, we've spoken a few times on our show about the particular issue of vaccine hesitancy. And, you know, since you, we had mentioned that, of course, the three of the 4 deaths that were recorded from the weekend tally were, of course, fully vaccinated persons. But I think that, you know, just to continue what you were saying, I think that one of the best metaphors that I've heard so far about the vaccination is that it's more or less like wearing a seatbelt in your car, in that it does, of course, offer you a layer of protection. If you do get into a car accident, you know, you're much more likely to survive a bad car accident or get less likely to be very seriously physically injured than if you weren't wearing one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that if you get into a car accident and you're wearing a seatbelt, you're not you're not going to have something serious or you're not going to pass away. And it's the same, a similar thing with the COVID vaccine. It's a layer of protection, and you know, if you are in one of those vulnerable populations, it's of course, it's recommended for everybody, but especially if you are in one of those vulnerable populations.
Yeah.
And specifically for older persons, if we look at the ongoing science from the international community, it seems that booster shots it seems to be the way to go, or that the people are going. I noticed people have been making, that is now, I believe, going to be a requirement in Israel for persons over 50. To get boosters, and as well, and it looks like that's also where some European countries and North American countries might be heading as well.
Yeah, amazing to see some of the European countries starting to lift all their COVID restrictions. It's, it's two-part. One, there's a bit of envy that they're at that point. Some countries have been able to hit that 70% and 80% vaccination rate. But even more so, we get to see what it's going to be like in those countries, and lessons that we can learn from as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I was looking also at some statistics regionally, so to see where Belize falls into how we're doing. And we're not actually, we're sort of in the middle. We're sort of in the middle range, and with Cuba and of course being near. Cuba being near the top, and some of the smaller states, Cayman Islands, and Belize is somewhere in the middle. We are at around, we're in the 30s, the high 30%. I can't give you the exact figure of fully vaccinated persons in the country, and near the lower end of the spectrum on that is Haiti, Jamaica, still having a lot of difficulties in their vaccine rollout. But of course, everything's going to differ from country to country. That's just the Caribbean. There's also, Latin America, and we look at what's going on abroad as well.
Yeah, of course, and we keep on updating you on the situation with COVID-19, and closely linked to that is the conversation we had yesterday with the Ministry of Education about the reopening of schools. I can't even imagine at any age, at any school age, being out of the classroom for 18 months.
Oh yeah, I know. And the thing is, like, if you talk to like, especially like younger children about it, they're like dying to get back in. I mean, they're really itching. They miss their friends. They want to, they want to play. They want to, of course, even learn just in that environment where they can be around people and have that face-to-face interaction with teachers as well as the other students. So, it is, but it's interesting to see the way that it's developing. And again, this is another worldwide issue of how exactly we're going to tackle. Nobody knows the exact or the answer, but we are still being guided by what the medical professionals are saying and recommending in relation to how face-to-face learning can resume.
Yeah. And like you said, I think if you talk to kids, they are more than eager to get back to the classroom. But this particular move to hybrid, to reopening to hybrid learning or even if they go back to full face-to-face, it's about convincing parents. And I think parents are very concerned for many different reasons. Some because they just don't want their children to get sick, some because they know that access to school includes access to public transportation, which still doesn't feel as safe as it should be, and even more so if they're coming back into high-risk environments. Remember, the vaccination for children, it's only for 12 to 17, which for the most part would only cover secondary school populations. There are some Standard 5, some Standard 6 students that may fall into that, but that wouldn't be the majority of them either. So I mean, I'm fascinated when I talk with young children how much they grasp what's going on. You ask them and they're like, yeah, we can't go to school because of the coronavirus. Or, my mom doesn't want me to catch COVID.
Yeah.
And so they get the idea of what's happening, but I think that, any parent who would weigh in on this would say that they're concerned about the lack of instruction within a classroom, because that's such an essential part of or learning. And not only that, the socialization with other children is important for our own development as well, for their development, I should say.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that, speaking particularly about the social aspect of school, that is coming into focus a lot now, especially going with a lot of things that have been going on in the country, especially with regard to the crime situation as well. People... that's another aspect that people are really missing in terms of teaching or like, let's just say, interacting with one another, and from that young level, and learning sort of social skills.
Yeah.
And also the frustration from being pent up inside all the time is something that's also been brought into focus. But we'll see what time has in store, I guess.
Yeah. And on to lighter news. How did you survive the social media apocalypse yesterday?
It was funny. It was not a problem for me. You know what I mean? Like, I was at work. I think the thing is, even while you're working, you still have that sort of instinct or that tendency to want to check, and that was me all the time. I was surprised that everything was off for so long.
Yeah.
Because of course, we've seen like apps be down or something, and but it's not usually a coordinated thing.
Yeah.
Like that, and it was really, but it wasn't really difficult for me. I don't know about you.
Well, it's interesting because I just thought WhatsApp was giving trouble. It does at times. And, they told me, oh, Facebook is down. And I'm like, oh, really? Facebook is down. My first joke was, well, there'll be a lot more productivity today for people. But yeah, it was strange. I think, a lot of people went back to their Twitter accounts to kill time. It seems everyone was there. And there were a few other messaging apps that people were still contacting you through. So that made it a bit easier. But yeah, it was, and I mean, this comes fresh off the heels of a whistleblower coming out and talking about Facebook essentially circumventing some of the safety issues that they knew existed and pushing forward with some of their developments. And I just thought it was interesting that the day after this information comes to light that everything goes down.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody.
I haven't checked the news to find out what happened.
Yeah, lots of people thought that was oddly coincidental.
Yeah.
But that was interesting, and I think that the way how people were reacting was also funny. As you said, people were on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see, and then all of us.
So you definitely saw more
Oh yeah, for
movement.
sure. And then and then we know all of our people. We know who you are. The people who aren't there on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So. That was fun to watch, people's reactions and all the memes that were as well coming out from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. But, I think going back to the investigation or the information that's being revealed, I think as parents who have young teens, they definitely, if they haven't been following international news, they should definitely pay attention to some of the information that's coming out, especially when you're looking at mental health for children and social media, because that's really been the most, it's one of those things that you kind of knew, but then you start to hear the data and you're like, oh, that's a bit scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a wider conversation about data protection and how the types of data that you share and what they can do with it. I mean,
Yes.
I know I've heard that you know, the lie that's most often told is, I have read the terms and conditions. So if you do, you know, so the point of that is that, you know, whenever you click that something, whenever you click that, you know, I agree, or you know, I have read, and so on. So you're allowing that has a consequence. And you know, and I can tell you, especially as an attorney as well, that you know, data is now, especially in the technology age, is being increasingly seen more as almost like a form of property. And there are rights, and there are things that you can and can't, and you should and shouldn't do. And the more you are aware of that, especially if you have family members, like children using the internet, using these platforms, it always helps to be aware. And so that 60 Minutes interview that came out about the whistleblowers is something good to watch as well. But you know, look into it, and for your own, you know, knowledge, and use if you are on social media as well.
All right, so that is what some of the talk of the town right now, but we got to get moving into our show for today. We're going to get you started with some motivation, and that means it's time for Eye Opener. Taken from dailyom.com, it goes like this. When you feel you are in the thick of things, tapping into your own inner resources will help bring strength. When you're in the thick of it, overwhelmed by too many things that need our attention, it's important to remember that we are never given more than we can handle. When life's challenges make us question this, our best coping mechanism is to follow the reliable and well-known course to our calm center and anchor ourselves there. It is for these times that we have been practicing regularly, so that our mind, body, and spirit will know how to find the peace within. Even in the midst of seeming chaos, a deep breath can help us turn within to find the space to work from, the calm at the center of the storm. Perhaps we've taken on more than is ours to do, or made commitments out of obligation rather than insight. It would just be the ebb and flow and life, or we may be receiving life lessons on a fast track in preparation for something wonderful to come.
You know, that's an interesting eye-opener, and it's kind of similar to stuff that we've talked about before. But I think that it's important to keep in mind, well, I like particularly the part about making commitments not based on instinct, and I think that a lot of us can fall into that trap a lot. And it goes several ways. It can be both professional, it can be personal, and I mean, how much times do you agree to do something, and then like when the time is coming or you have to get ready for it, you have to like really convince yourself, you're like, and I see memes about this a lot, and you know, about thinking about like when plans are cancelled at the last minute, and like, you know, people are like, yay. And so I've been there, don't worry. So I think that but the point is, even when you're at the point of like agreeing to that or something, you have to listen to yourself, and it has to, you know, just managing your time in general just has to come from that place of once comfort and looking out for your own best interest, and looking out for your boundaries, and you know, that's what I think is key there.
And being comfortable enough to be able to speak up for yourself in those times, because I think that the challenge that comes with setting boundaries is when you have to actually say no. And you know, I don't think it's as easily accepted, and I find most often, if you're just honest and upfront and say, you know, this is not possible for me at this time, it helps a lot, but it doesn't make it any easier. But yeah, we can fall into that trap easily. But even if you don't take on other commitments because you've been asked, I think sometimes there are some people, and I think we all have that tendency at times to just do because it has to be done. And not because it's something that you need to be doing at that time. And it's staying calm through all of it that really is the challenge.
Yeah, and I think that you can and I think that, you know, with setting that boundaries and something, you can decide for yourself what has to be done and what doesn't have to be done. And I think that's the important thing, because, you know, if you think, especially based on what you perceive other people's expectations to be of you, you are going to fall into that trap of, making commitments and doing things that, you don't want to do, or it's too overwhelming for you. Because, I mean, you might want to do it, but you may not have enough time, or you don't want to stretch yourself too thin as well.
Yeah.
So, you have to study yourself and know what exactly it is you're capable of and what you like and what you want to do, and operate from there.
All right. Well, I can tell you what we have to do. We got to check in with the weather.
Absolutely.
And so we are going to find out just what we can expect for today from our forecasters at the Met Service.
A light and relatively moist northeasterly airflow prevails. The 24-hour forecast: sunny with some cloudy spells today and partly cloudy tonight. Showers will be generally isolated, along with isolated thunderstorms, and a few more developing over the south tonight. High temperatures for today will reach 88 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 93 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountains. Low temperatures for tonight will be 78 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 71 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 67 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Winds over the open sea will be light and variable. Sea conditions will be slight. High tides occur at 9:05 this morning and then 9:21 tonight. Low tides at 3:29 this evening and then 3:41 tomorrow morning. The moon will set at 5:24 this evening and rise at 5:51 tomorrow morning. Sunset is at 5:38 this evening and sunrise at 5:43 tomorrow morning. The extended forecast: a few showers and isolated thunderstorms will develop mostly over the south at first on Wednesday. Then activity will later increase and affect most places by Wednesday night. And in the tropical weather outlook, tropical cyclone formation is not expected in the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, or Gulf of Mexico during the next 48 hours. And this has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
All right, there is our weather update for today.
Yep, so looks like it is going to get a little bit rainy, but more tomorrow than today. So.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Okay, we got to get moving into our show for today.
Yep, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about this morning. For our first conversation, we are going to be getting an update from the Colby Foundation. We are going to be seeing how they have been dealing with the pandemic, and we're also going to be getting an update on all that is going on there. So that is going to be our first conversation for this morning.
All right, and a very interesting webinar is going to be hosted. It's called Decoding the Financial Industry and today's virtual workplace. It's hosted by Belaifa, and we're going to get some of the information from representatives of Belaifa themselves and also some of the speakers that will be participating.
And finally, we're going to be getting an update from Rugby Belize. We're going to be talking all about how the sport has progressed, and we are going to be getting an update about some upcoming events and tournaments which are going to be pretty interesting. So that's going to be our third and final conversation for this morning.
And then we're going to close off with Gavin giving us the update on what's trending.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I can guess a couple of them, but I'm going to wait for the end of the show.
Well, I mean, the thing is that because of yesterday, yesterday made that job a little bit harder. But of course, we're going to be getting
there
into
was enough over the weekend.
Yeah.
All right, but we're going to close off with our birthday shout out, and we are saying a happy birthday to Joshan and Jayshawn Arana, both turning 9 years old today. Of course, this comes from your family with lots of love, double the blessings, double the love, and
double the cake, which is my favorite part.
All right, do have a great day, girls. We're sure that your family is going to make it special. And with that, we'll take that break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the CEO of Colby to talk about how they've been managing the prisoners during this pandemic.
Beltrade is implementing the Building Resilient MSMEs Accelerating Digitization Project with support from the United Nations Development Programme. To support the development of an MSME medium-term strategy, digitization of capacity building services, and establishment of a B2B platform that can increase enterprise capabilities to facilitate supply chain and market access and flexibility to continue operating despite the COVID-19 pandemic. PPF Capital Belize Limited is conducting a survey to capture information on how COVID-19 is affecting MSMEs across Belize. Kindly fill out this survey as your input will aid in developing MSMEs interventions that respond to the specific needs of MSMEs in the country. One business owner will be awarded $1,000 for participating. Some restrictions apply. We thank you for your contribution as we remain committed to contributing towards building a resilient MSME environment within Belize. For more information, visit our website at beltrade.bc or call us at 822-3737.
We have been a partner with Smart for over 10 plus years. We have a full Smart plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this Smart service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our Smart service, we pay an average of about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to Smart because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
Smart continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
The TV you love is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Wow. Oh my God, she drunk. No hurry, I got this. Goodness. Oh my gosh, it's the Alice.
Being the hardest. The hardest. But you had way more than 2 drinks tonight, love, which is a legal limit to drive. What about you? Can you drive?
Well, I was drinking soft drink all night, so I can drive her home. Thanks, Bree. Of course, Tricia. You know I got you. You're my girl.
That's what I like to see. Friends don't let friends drive drunk, because you can't be replaying a real life. Stig says so. Can't replay in a real life.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning. We are joined via Zoom by the CEO of the Kobe Foundation, Virgilio Murillo. Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Marlene.
How are you today?
Oh, not bad. Thank you. And how are you doing? How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty well, and we, want to say thank you for coming, for joining us this morning. It's of course we're glad to be getting an update from the Colby Foundation, and we, in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic, we often think about how it has affected, let's see, everybody in terms of their movement and not being able to go here and there. But we don't automatically think that it also has an effect on what's going on at the Colby Foundation. So where we are right now in the pandemic, a year and a half in, and with let's just start talking broadly. So where are we now in terms of the prison? How is the prison coping with the pandemic at the moment?
All right, Gavin and Marlene, the prison has been doing very well, I must say. We have been managing it. We had a few cases. If you will allow me to share a slide with you,
Yes.
I wanted to sort of do a little, summary of how we're doing in terms of the pandemic. So just let me know if you're seeing this slide very well. Are you seeing this?
Yes, we are seeing. Thank you.
All right. Hold on a second. Let me just go into slide mode. All right, there you go. All right, this is just a summary of the positive cases in the Belize and Nepal prisons since. Hello?
Yes.
We're still here. Go ahead.
Okay, I heard some interruption in the background. Now, this is just a summary or a synopsis of all the cases that have shown up as positive in the prison since the pandemic came knocking at our door back in September of last year. What we're seeing here on this summary is that we had among staff 4 female and 12 males thus far having tested positive within the prison. Amongst inmates, there were 17 females overall and 266 males. So that gives you a total of 299 positive cases. We have done a total of 1,518 tests, and we've had 279 recovered, and as we speak right now, we have only 20 active cases. All right, so that gives you an idea how we've been doing for the last year. This is pretty much a chart that shows our infection rate within the prison. And if you notice, we had kept it under control in December, all the way through to September of this year, when we started to see see a few more cases than usual. I will tell you that some of this, almost all of these cases that you're seeing here in September are coming in by new admissions into the prison. So we had at least almost 14 cases that came in when they did that state of emergency for Southside Belize City. But we have recorded 59, I think it is 59 cases we've recorded from September or August, I should say, right into September of this year, year. And this is where we had a little spike. But of those 57 new cases, we still have 20 currently active.
Before you move further, can I just ask one question? Of all the cases, the 299 cases that you've had, have any required hospitalization?
Fortunately, absolutely none.
Okay.
These are primarily asymptomatic cases. As a matter of fact, if it weren't for the random testing that the doctor does, I think we wouldn't even come across these cases. So, because we are doing random testing, particularly for the illegal immigrants who are being repatriated to their country. There is a requirement that they need to present a COVID negative test for them to pass through or for them to be repatriated. So we find out that when we do these tests, if we come across a positive test, then we go straight into contact tracing. If we come across none, then of course they just get to be repatriated. So we're doing good.
So
absolutely no hospitalization.
So persons are tested before entry, and then you have a random testing protocol within the institution.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And let me just step back for a moment, because one of the questions I think we haven't gotten answered is looking at how you manage. You have a very large number of people in a small space, and even within some of the cells as well. So where we're asked to social distance, the rest of us with our liberties are still confined by a curfew. What's in place at the prison to keep the numbers, to reduce the spread?
All right. Yeah. There's a talking in the background. I don't know if you'll hear it.
No, we can't hear it, but it might be from the video that you're seeing. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Certainly, the COVID-19 hygiene practices does work. It is effective. We continue to be rigid with our screening, temperature checks, hand hygiene, social distancing among staff. Of course, we cannot overlook the wearing of face mask, which is the most critical aside from the hand hygiene. So we continue to be rigid with those, and we spare no one when it comes to that. Everybody, even from a diplomat, has got to abide by the protocol if they come into the prison. Anybody who fails to obey those protocols are simply not allowed to enter the prison.
And how has it been like in order, managing the pandemic, but finding the resources in order to do that? Because I would imagine that in addition to masks, there have been other expenses or things that have had or that the prison has had to put in place in order to manage it so successfully.
Well, absolutely. We continue to invest monies in things like antibacterial, liquid soap, Clorox, because we have to be sanitizing the bus right now. Right now, we're at a stage where we are doing sanitization of transport vehicle that brings in staff and takes out staff, because what we see happening in the community definitely can have an impact on the prison if we're not rigid with our protocols. We had Honorable Karim Musa in December last year had solicited a very beautiful, handsome donation, I should say, from I think the Pan American Health Organization, with quite a substantial amount of masks, chemicals, antibacterial chemicals, sanitizers, face shields, PPEs, etc. So we continue to use those. We might still have a little bit remaining, and we buy the difference, or we buy the other ones that have depleted by today, such as the Clorox and the hand sanitizers and so forth. But certainly we are investing, and we have to do it because at the end of the day, it has kept the prison relatively clear of the virus. What you see happening in the community right now is not happening in the prison. We seem to have it very much under control. What I can tell you though, 2 weeks ago, I had taken the decision to put the prison on a full lockdown in the sense that no in-person visits could continue. And that in itself seemed to have mitigated quite a number of the cases because it prevented it from spreading further. And that is why we're down to 20 right now, and hopefully those should be cleared by next week.
And I guess that's part of the question that I was asking earlier, because when you introduce additional restrictions on the prison population, they already have very few liberties. Those include visitors and it's not for all. What has been the response?
Well, the response, I think by now, a lot of the prisoners have matured, and they have realized now that this thing is serious, and that whatever the prison is doing is in their best interest. I think by now, because of we have an educational campaign on the radio station that we have in the prison, where we keep emphasizing that in prison we cannot social distance. It is just too many people. Our current population right now is 1,045 inmates, and coupled with that is 237 staff. So it's not a little bit of people in this one central location.
Yeah.
And by now they have matured since last year, and they now realize that and then they're listening to the news daily, so they're hearing about the 5 deaths on Friday, and they're hearing about the 4 deaths yesterday. Believe you me, that's scaring the hell out of them. It's like we've had 422 deaths thus far. Not one is from the prison, unlike other prisons where I see they have quite a lot of deaths.
Yeah. In some other countries, the prisons are battling outbreak after outbreak. But let's come back to another area, the vaccination mandate. I believe visitors now must be vaccinated or show proof of vaccination to visit inmates?
Absolutely. We've taken that position. As a matter of fact, when we heard that that was the way the government would have been going with the whole issue, we had already sent out our memorandum to our staff, sort of notifying them that they would need to, those persons that never wanted to vaccinate for whatever reason would have needed to present their either a PCR test or a rapid test that was have been taken, let's say, at least 2 to 3 days prior to show that they're negative. And then aside from that, we also sent out a notice to the inmates telling them that they need to tell their people that they would need to present similar, either a vaccination card or some kind of proof that they are negative for the virus. And we're going to enforce that, because at the end of the day, it seems to be the norm. I was just reading an article yesterday where, a California judge ruled that, prison officers or correctional staff must be vaccinated. And we don't need to reach to the courts to tell our staff that they must be vaccinated. I don't think we need to reach that level. At the end of the day, we are a prison, and our mandate is to hold people accountable to laws that they have broken. And I don't know, what sense that would make that we ourselves are not ready and willing to follow.
Yeah. So what is the vaccination rate for staff and the prison population?
All right. I have that on this slide right here.
Okay.
If you look at this slide, it is showing that when it comes to the inmates, we have a 55% vaccinated thus far. When it comes to the officer percentage, that is the guys in the black uniform, 79% of them have been vaccinated thus far. And as for the civilian staff, 90% of them. So we have an overall average of 60% of the entire prison population, staff and inmates lumped together having been vaccinated. This number, I believe, has changed since it was last updated a couple of days ago. I imagine, because I know of a few staff who since October 1st have decided finally, listen, I need to go and get my vaccination, because literally if they cannot present this negative test or this vaccination card, we're telling them you cannot enter the prison, and simply you're going to be looked at as absent from duty, and you're going to be disciplined for that. So since then, I have heard of a few who have gone and done it. So I know this number will change drastically within a few days.
You have a higher average than the country?
Yeah, I was looking at, first of all, just the fact that this data is being compiled like this, as well as the numbers are showing that this is something that is being taken very seriously at Colby Foundation. Can you talk a little bit about how the staff has been sort of reacting, working along with not only the vaccination, but also in enforcing some of the COVID protocols within the prison?
Well, Gavin, believe you me, we don't have much difficulty with prison staff enforcing rules. Remember, prisons are all about order and discipline. Prisons are all about enforcing rules. And, the staff, they enforce it on the inmates, they enforce it on the staff, on their fellow staff. So we don't have a difficulty with it. As a matter of fact, we are not getting any backlashes from our staff with respect to this mandatory vaccination situation that regulations have recently been passed on. I think what we are getting right now is their compliance. For their own reasons, they have, they have their own reasons why they never wanted it. But, educating them and showing them what is happening in the society, they're very proud, as a matter of fact, to know that, the Belize City, particularly where most of the cases are in, and quite a number of our staff are from Belize City, and whatever they're practicing on the outside and the inside, despite what is happening in Belize City, we continue to see a very low number of positive cases in the prison. So to me, that is remarkable.
Yeah.
The vaccination does help, no doubt about it. Now, one of the things I want to point out here is that aside from those persons who tested positive, whether staff or inmates in the prison, that is, we have had almost another 100 of our staff, both civilian and officers, who had tested positive whilst in their communities and had to be quarantined or isolated for a period of time, anywhere from 10 days to 14 days, until they were properly cleared or recovered. Then they were allowed to come back. So, but it has not affected the prison so much. We managed to bring in people to work overtime and cover the locations or the positions. The only thing with that is that, we didn't want to burn out our people, because quite a number, like I said, 97 others since the pandemic came to Belize had tested positive. And again, asymptomatic cases mostly.
Yeah. Now, it's your biggest risk would be from the staff that has to travel back and forth, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Are they subjected to the random testing as well?
Absolutely, they are, especially and particularly so if one of them tests positive, because we have a barracks where we have officers camp when they're on their shift, because they do a 7 days on, 7 days off shift, right? So once they are here for 7 days, they sleep. And if, for argument's sake, last year, one of our officers tested positive. He was the first one that tested positive, and the doctor had to go on an all-out contact tracing. And we started by checking all those persons who were in close proximity to him at the barracks. And thankfully, it turned out that I think only about 4 others from the entire 36 that were there tested positive. That is if my memory serves me well, because I might have the number skewed a little bit.
Yeah.
And apart from, the staff, one of the things, and we mentioned very briefly a little bit earlier, which I imagine would be a big risk, would be when there is, let's say, an increase or a sharp increase, let's say, of the prison population when there have been states of emergency. Of course, that would be a higher percentage of persons than normal would be coming in within a short space of time, and there's a higher risk because of that. So how is it that the prison is prepared to deal with that when that does occur? Because it has happened, I think, twice since the pandemic has started.
Absolutely. To be very honest, I am very happy for the regulations that just came out, because there's even in the regulation, there's even that requirement for these prisoners that are being admitted into prison to present a PCR or a rapid negative test. And I noticed that it is the Ministry of Health that is responsible to making sure that that happens. So that is good for us. As a matter of fact, I will tell you that last year when the pandemic came knocking at our door, one of the smartest thing I thought we could have done at the time to have prevented the virus from entering the prison altogether was to have the Ministry of Health either post a health officer here to do these rapid tests for staff coming on shift, as well as for prisoners being admitted into the prison, and I think we would have never had a case. But it wasn't something that I got any buy-in from the Ministry of Health at the time, and so I can't force them. I was told that it would have been an expensive venture and all of that, and probably it would have been. But I thought prevention was better than cure. But now that they have mandated it now, I think we should be in a little better position now, and I think that is right up our alley. So this is one of the smartest thing to do, test these people before they come in. Of those 57 cases, like I told you earlier, almost all have been new admissions. I would want to think that maybe only 7 were convicted prisoners who are currently in prison.
Yeah.
And more than likely, they may have gotten infected by a new admission, a new convicted prisoner, or a new remanded prisoner, so to speak.
Yeah. And, if you'd allow me, I'd want to shift a bit from the conversation about COVID onto another topic before we run out of time. CEO, you know that there was a recent state of emergency that concluded, and following that, we have been seeing some violent crimes in the city once again, one which took the life of an innocent teenager. I just want to tap into your experience here for a moment, looking at the situation that we face in this country with gang and indiscriminate gun violence. What's your take on the effectiveness of these state of emergencies?
When prisoners are sent to prison under states of emergency, I can tell you with certainty that they don't come to the prison with that, what do you call, that indolent behavior, disrespectful behavior or belligerent behavior. In the prison, we maintain them under proper control. I always share the view that I saw a quote somewhere that says it is easier for us to build strong children than it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And I don't know that we can ever be true about that. The state of emergency, not to evade your question, the state of emergency really, I get the impression to some extent that maybe it is losing its effect, especially if it is only for 30 days. It would be more effective, I believe, if it goes beyond 30 days, maybe up to 90 days. But I think even that comes with its own level of liabilities for the government of Belize, so they have to be very careful with that.
Yeah. From your experience, managing the prison, essentially the goal that you have is rehabilitating persons who enter into the system. And I'm sure you would agree that not all persons are attracted to the path of rehabilitation. What are some of the core issues that you feel perhaps need to be addressed if we really want to be able to tackle the situation of gang violence that we see?
Well, we keep hearing at all of these states of emergency, we keep hearing of lack of job, not being able to get employment. We hear about wanting land to do farming or to build a house or those kinds of things. We certainly know that when it comes to these guys, a lot of it hinges on them not having proper education. When we analyze it, it's like almost 90% of them come with a second farm and below educational level. So certainly education is one. Certainly, lack of employment opportunity is another one because of the stigma. I understand the business community is very skeptical about hiring them because of their past. Some of them have rap sheets, no doubt about it. They've engaged in numerous robberies, numerous burglaries, and the way the criminal justice system works, you have got to have evidence. People could literally know that you did it, but because there is not enough evidence to convict, then you don't. And that is why I think somebody had passed a remark some time ago where they said that in the courts, the justice doesn't have eyes, but in the streets, he has eyes like an owl. He doesn't miss anything. So these are some of the challenges. But like I said, education certainly, lack of employment opportunities certainly, need for a plot of land to build a house or to do a little farming. We keep hearing that. Vocational training for those persons who are not inclined to be academically sound, that kind of stuff. But certainly those are the core issues. Now, another thing I will tell you too, and a lot of it may have to do with ignorance, because I always say that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. These guys come with some serious behavioral problem, antisocial, really fightful, hostile, you name it. And it is no joke. And I'm very unforgiving. And the last state of emergency, there were a couple of them, teasing each other, threatening each other. We had to get involved and we had to discipline them because we had to show them that we will not tolerate that in the prison. They were literally threatening and talking about wait when we go back, wait when we go back, see what happened to you, things like that. We can't tolerate that in a prison. Sorry.
And so while they are, in your charge and they're your responsibility, especially in such a short time frame of, let's say, 30 days, is there one for you or for the Colby Foundation, is there perhaps a goal that you would say that, well, after they have left the prison, you would have instilled, whether it's some sort of sense of discipline or maybe something, or is it simply that, or are you more working with the government and just sort of managing them for the time being?
No, we try to make use of the time. This time around, it was very, I would say, horrible for the Colby Foundation to have engaged with them properly, because like I said earlier, we had 14 of them bringing in COVID with them, and you don't want to be around them. That PPE is something very hot, so you wear that for a little bit and then you try to get out of it. So we never had an opportunity to really do some programs with them. To the very end, the last week before they were leaving, we did have, I think it was the behavioral modification group, the government arm, that came in and did some sessions with them alongside Colby Foundation. But I think the 1 week was not enough in my mind. It would have been nice if we didn't have COVID and we could have had that face-to-face contact. You will remember that when they had come here in 2018 and 2020, I think it was, or 2019, I think. No, 2020. I had them in my big conference room and I personally engaged with them.
Yeah.
And I tried to show them, well, what I tried to do then was teach them coping skills. I try to teach them that, you're not a product of your circumstance, you're pretty much a product of your decisions type thing. This time around, it was difficult for us to do that. So yeah. Even though I'm fully vaccinated, I still don't want to be taking any chance.
Of course. Now, going beyond the conversation of just the time you have them for the state of emergency, let's look at some of the things. I don't know what the current recidivism rate or return rate of prisoners to the prison is, but as I said before, your task is essentially partly to be able to help in rehabilitation of persons who come in conflict with the law. What are some of the things? Can you see signs of persons wanting to change their livelihoods? Are there the job context and the potential for moving into farming? That's one thing, but are there other things that you usually look for to see if these guys are serious, if they want to change their life?
I can see where some want to change their lives, and I can see where I can literally predict the ones that will go there and die. I'll tell you the truth. We're putting a database together, and I call it database Death After Prison. We came up with at least 49 of these ex-gang members over the last 2 years who have died shortly after they had left prison. I'm not even sure that any of them had passed a year, if my memory serves me well. But we are putting that together because this was one of the reality show that we wanted to present to these last state of emergency guys. But like I tell you, COVID prevented us from getting into the graphic details of it. Sometimes you got to show these people the reality. It's like Nelson Mandela says, you got to talk to them in their language. You can't be prettying up anything for them. That is a language they understand. I always say that, when they are out to kill somebody, they go and they stake out that person in the mangrove. There's snakes and all kind of things that can happen to them while they're doing that. But they are hell-bent on getting out their target. And I think sometimes you got to be very forceful in explaining to them the reality. The recidivism rate for right now is not looking too well. I think it's almost at 20% currently. Quite a lot of people are not holding up since the pandemic. They're not getting jobs. And it is mostly with these repeat offenders. Always here for things like robbery, burglary, and theft. They obviously aren't holding up right now. So we saw where some of them held out for a year or so, and then they came right back.
Yeah. And just as someone who's so deeply involved in the criminal justice system in this country, what are some of the changes that you would like to see? Very often we have cases like what took place with the murder of Dwayne Gabriel, and there is an immediate reaction, and then it kind of wanes with time until, unfortunately, a similar incident takes place again. But being at a critical role in the criminal justice system, what do you think are some of the changes that you believe would be beneficial in curbing our situation of crime?
Well, I tell you what, certainly there need to be more investment in the investigation of cases. I think we've not seen much conviction as it relates to homicides. There's always that tendency to settle for manslaughter, which is not necessarily murder, despite of how calculated it may have been. So certainly I think there's need to be a lot of emphasis on very good intelligence work to deal with these criminal organizations and bring them down. Certainly when it comes to crime investigation, the forensics and criminal investigation branch needs more resources to do a better investigation and dot all their I's and cross all their T's, so that when you take the case to court, there's a conviction. I think that is one of the reasons why these boys, kill and don't worry too much about it, because they know that, on technicality, they can get off. We see that all the time here. So definitely, the prison, certainly when it comes to the prison, we need to try and see how we can, get more resources for the purpose of rehabilitation, for the purpose of securing these guys so that they don't escape. We certainly need to, I think, put more teeth in the prison's laws, so that we can at least be able to manage these guys properly. Remember, prison is the last sanction available to the court to manage those persons who have failed alternative punishments. And it cannot have weak laws. Our laws have not been updated for quite some time now. And there's some stuff that needs to be changed in there, such as contraband. A guy brings in a cell phone, all you can do is charge him under the code for offenses against prison discipline by prisoners. That's very weak. It is not criminal in nature. It's pretty much for the prison disciplinary tribunal. We need to start charging people for a cell phone and let them face jail time for a cell phone. At the end of the day, they can use a cell phone to call hits. They can use they can do everything. I don't know if you're following the news with the riot in Ecuador. You saw over 118 died, and those things were carried out. Those activities were coordinated from AK-47s they had in the prison, grenades and all of that. And those things were coordinated with illegal cell phones. You need to look at a cell phone almost like a weapon in prison,
So you're talking about better investigation, enhancing the prison laws. What about post-incarceration transition?
Absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. We don't have much halfway houses. I think I can only recall about two. One, I think both of them would be in Roaring Creek, if I'm not mistaken, and then there might be one, I think, on the highway as well. So maybe three, but their accommodation, I think, is about six. I don't even think they can accommodate 10 people. And right now we have 140 persons out on parole right now. They seem to be doing very well. More than likely, most of them have good support from their families. But out of that 140, I think at least 10 of them might be in halfway houses in Roaring Creek and on the highway. But certainly we need that halfway transitioning houses. And the parole is the ideal way to see that a prisoner settles in well and he readjusts his life. But again, Ms. Marlene, I will let you know, I always look at rehabilitation like Christianity, right? Christianity is here to save the lost souls, but inevitably some people are going to hell anyway, and so that is how I look at it.
My final question just has to do with whether or not we've had conversations with ministry representatives from Home Affairs, from Education. We know that there's an effort in trying to find a strategy to be able to mitigate gang involvement and also to intervene with the issues that we're seeing today. What's the level of involvement from your end? Are you engaged in discussions when creating these strategies?
Absolutely. Mr. Dawson is the representative from Colby.
Okay.
And he is very much, equipped and skilled and knowledgeable with this kind of thing. So he has been appointed by me to be the guy when it comes to gangs. As a matter of fact, he's the chairperson of the Leadership Intervention Unit, which is the task force that is tasked with the responsibility to try and bring these warring factions together. But we have very much involvement. As a matter of fact, I believe that everybody is trying to listen to Mr. Dawson, and if they're not, they better do, because I don't know that I have never come across an expert who has very good strategies in how we can resolve these issues than Mr. Dawson.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Maria, we are just about out of time, but we do want to say thank you for coming in and giving us an update. Of course, we know things can't be easy at the Colby Foundation, but as we discussed, it seems that at least in terms of the pandemic, I think that's being managed pretty successfully so far. So thank you for coming in and sharing all of that this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
And with that, we are going to be taking a very short break. And when we come back, we are going to be speaking all about our webinar about decoding the financial industry. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back after a short break.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
At Fuse Bistro Limited, we care about the well-being of your family and the environment. Our Euro Caribbean style restaurant features a wide variety of tropical lunches, gourmet dinners, fused granola, organic coffee, infused sangrias, margaritas, and martinis, and much more for you to enjoy. Find our organic food products at Belize On, Bistro, Grab on the Go, and stores in San Ignacio and Santa Elena. WhatsApp us at 624-0500 for deliveries. Fused Bistro Limited, pure and natural.
Vaccines protect you and they protect me. Getting vaccinated is one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself and your family safe and healthy. Once enough people are immunized, opportunities for an outbreak of disease becomes very low. And if we all choose to get vaccinated, we contribute in getting back to spending quality time with our loved ones in a safe way.
At Belize Diagnostic Center, we offer FDA-approved PCR testing for COVID-19. Get your results as quickly as 1 hour. Don't risk getting exposed to COVID-19 by going elsewhere. We take appointments or we can come to your home or office using our concierge service with no additional fees. We have 10 locations countrywide. Call or WhatsApp us at 613-TEST. That is 613-8378 to schedule your test today.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardena Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
We're back.
Good morning, and we are back, of course, and we're just getting our second conversation for this morning started, and we're talking all about a webinar that is talking about decoding the financial industry and also speaking a little bit about ethical financial practices. And we have representatives from the Belize Association of Insurance and Financial Advisories, and they are hosting a webinar all about it. So we are joined by Amy Ford, who is the Vice President of Belaifa, and we also have Nasima Reyes, who is a mental health counselor and is going to also be a speaker on the webinar. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
This is a very interesting topic to tackle, and I'm sure one that a lot of people are interested in hearing about. Can you talk a little bit about behind the scenes and how it is that the idea for this webinar came about?
All right, so as you mentioned, we are the Belize Association of Insurance and Financial
advisors. And so we are charged with advocating and spreading awareness for financial literacy. With the change that we've had with COVID, you know, everything has changed. Before it was physical networking. I mean, you wouldn't hear of, can I call Marlene and say, Marlene, I have some ideas I want to share with you. Can we speak over Zoom? Marlene would be like, no, you can come over, you know. And so a lot has changed, but what we want to emphasize is that at the end of the day, there is still that fiduciary duty to our clients. There is still that integrity and confidentiality that we have to uphold. And so really it's a reminder. There has also been an influx of new persons in the industry. And so we want to reiterate there's a certain standard that we have to maintain for our clients. So Dr. Donnelyn Myvitt, president of Belize Center for Training, she will be talking to us about that and maintaining the standard in the virtual world that we're now operating in.
Now, you know, stepping back to, I think, the work that Belifa does, you very much, you're also working previously in fundraising for other organizations. So while you're helping out clients, you're also assisting organizations like the Kidney Association of Belize. How is that aspect going?
Well, it's been challenging like everything else because as you mentioned, we normally host the Red Gala every year, and that's one of the biggest fundraisers that we do for them. And so we haven't forgotten them. For every registrant that we get in the webinar, there is $5 that is going towards the Belize Kidney Association. So yes, we're still working with them.
Yeah. And looking at the conversation about the ethics in financial industry, how does mental health tie in?
Well, mental health ties into everything that we do. And given the dynamics that the pandemic has changed and shifted everything in our lives, it is important for everybody to incorporate that balance that we all need in order for us to, as Amy mentioned, we need to have the financial freedom. We also need to have that mental awareness and the mental capability to be able to produce the best of ourselves and create that balance.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the lineup that you have, the group that you have, so it'll be looking at business and professional development. You have mental health. Talk to us about how you put together this composition of persons.
All right, so again, it goes back to the current situation that COVID has created where, you know, we're not able to meet physically. And so all the dynamics have changed. Everything has changed and we need to adapt. So while we're tackling the ethics in the virtual world, we also have to be cognizant that, you know, we can't market ourselves the same. And so in there, we do have creating your digital footprint, you know, marketing ourselves on social media. A lot of us are like, not everybody's a Marlene, right? That can just put ourselves out there and be graceful about it.
I'm still not good with doing that on social media.
So maybe we should have gotten you to tell us the secret, right? Yeah, but that's a part of it, you know, creating that digital footprint, selling yourself on social media, how to appeal to your target audience.
Yeah.
And then again, like Nasima says, I mean, all of it, I mean, I have gone from being just a working mom to being a stay-at-home mom to being a teacher, you know. So while I'm working, I have to balance all these things, and it is mind-boggling. Everything has changed. And so I was just mentioning to her that sometimes, you know, you have a bad day, you have a bad meeting. My bed is right next door. I just want to go in there and just sleep it out, but I can't do that, you know. And so it's important that while we're telling people, these are the standards you have to uphold, this is how you get out there and reach people, you know, online. There's still a balance that we need to maintain. How do we create that space? And that is where Nasima comes in to help us.
That is so true. It also, I guess, gives you an insight into what your potential clients or clients are experiencing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Nasima, have you, let's say, have you also heard feedback from, let's say, it doesn't even, I suppose not even people just within the industry, but in general about how people are maybe finding it difficult to sort of balance all of the things that perhaps, you know, like just some of the stuff that Amy had mentioned?
Yes, of course. There is a lot of feedback on social media, on everybody hear the noise, especially with the kids being home from school and everything like that. And the dynamics changing, like I mentioned, with you being at home and then you have to manage your kids, you have to manage your work at the same time, and you have to work on being happy while doing it. So that is where my segment comes in. I'm giving some tips on how to create a happy workspace from home. And that is very difficult because, you know, from the past, home was our little safe haven where we got away from work. So now going at home and then it becoming intertwined is just a little confusing for the brain. So then we have to recondition ourselves and create that little space and have boundaries and all those tips that you need to just be mindful of and intentional in creating a happy workspace from home.
I think Amy's example just nailed it. I never worked from home, but if I did, that would probably be an appeal for me as well. But I like the let's move into the ethics if we could, because where the COVID, the pandemic has allowed us to tap into the potential for technology, the business etiquette rules have not caught up as much. And so I wanted to talk about, you know, what you imagine will be explored at the webinar about how to know, you know, when's the right time to send messages, what you should expect for results, what medium should you use. Should you WhatsApp everybody, or should you go traditional email, or do you go phone calls? If somebody wants to do something in person, how do I politely say, I feel more comfortable with Zoom? These are ethical dilemmas that did not exist pre-COVID.
Yeah. Yes, and so not giving too much away, yes, all of those will be addressed. And also, like you rightly said, the medium, before it would have been comfortable for you and I to meet because you're there, you know that whatever you're sharing, it's not going anywhere, there's no recording. But now on a Zoom call, how do I know somebody else is not in the room? How do I know I'm not being recorded? That sort of thing, right? So those are the some of the things that we will be addressing and coaching our other colleagues in the industry to say, you know, this is how we go about it. We have to be able to earn and maintain our clients' trust. And we do that by upholding these standards. We carry ourselves a certain way so that we can give them that level of comfort.
And you know, earlier you mentioned that there was, especially since the pandemic, an increase in people who are coming into the industry. And based on that, have you seen any sort of, let's say, mistakes or people not following the best practices? If so, maybe you can give some examples. Why, you know, that show why this sort of a webinar is sort of necessary for people to learn about.
Well, I'm sure, I mean, in everything new, there will be hiccups. And so really this is us just coming out there and say, let us hold your hand, let us carry you forward. It's an investment in yourself to develop, you know, and to be able to build your portfolio. So while we're not going to be, I wouldn't call out anything specific, I would say it's a safety net. Before it happens, let's catch it.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, even expanding further, if you're reaching out to people with new services, it's a tough financial time. So how do you factor in that in the webinar and getting people up to speed with being realistic with people with their financial goals?
And so while you rightly said it's a tough time, I think more than ever COVID has put forefront and center in our faces that there is the need to plan. There is the need to make sure that we have something to fall back on. And so I think it has become more important for persons to meet with us. And when we meet with persons, it's not to say you have to do this today. It's to look at where you are, what can we do to get you to where you need to be. And so it's taking that first footstep and building relationships.
Yeah. And will you help in couching the conversation in the right way? Because one, money talk is still very taboo. I'm sure all of your participants will know that. But secondly, some may see it as insensitive if you say you should start saving with us or investing with us, and things are in a tight financial crunch.
Well, money talk is taboo, but then there's this stigma against mental health as well. So both are in the same kind of boat. And so the insight then is then to just become more aware of yourself, know your capabilities. What I offer is just for clients, for people, individuals to be mindful and just know what they're capable of. And a part of that is, a very important part of that is planning. And that's where Amy's specialty is in the financial aspect. And for me, it's for you to become aware of your capabilities and what you need to get to a certain goal. So,
and then even with planning, and with the importance of planning, I should say, one of the other things that has come out, especially from the pandemic, is that things can be unpredictable as well. So is that also going to be an aspect, talking about how to deal with perhaps hiccups or roadblocks along the way? From a mental health perspective, Nancy, about how.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Oh, I'm just saying, you know, if the pandemic has brought on also some unpredictable circumstances.
Of course, so many.
Exactly. So, so I was asking if there's also going to be a little bit of talk about how to manage that, you know, perhaps when things don't go exactly to plan.
Yes, yes. We're going to have several tips. We're going to have some insightful tips, some games, some giveaways, some interaction, some much needed social interaction, because the isolation, like Amy mentioned, when you're at home, away, you don't have that direct contact with somebody that you would normally have within the office. For you to, if you're having a bad day or something goes wrong and you're not making your quota, for you to just, you know, tap your friend or your colleague to the side and say, you know what, let us have a distraction or something to calm you down. But you're forced within that little space at home, if you're working from home, to then just stay in that negativity for a little while unless you have some tips to manage those.
That's interesting. Now, what's been the response since you have announced that you'd be having the webinar?
We have had quite a bit of sign up. And so it's just for us to encourage people to continue to do it while we are targeting the financial industry. We did mention, you know, we will be talking about creating your digital footprint. So entrepreneurs, it's open to everyone. Everybody can learn from it, because in anything that you do, you have to maintain a certain standard in order to keep your clients, you know, to build that trust with them. And of course, mental health speaks to everybody. We want to create that balance in our lives.
Yeah, you know, and I was thinking as you were speaking just now with the concept of planning, you know, while there are a lot of people struggling with anxiety right now. Even if they were diagnosed before, they still have challenges with keeping up. And sometimes countering that anxiety is having a good plan in place.
Right.
That's whether it's financial or coping.
And I also want to mention that even before the pandemic, people had crisis, people had distress, people had loss in their lives. So before the pandemic, there was this need in the workplace and for individuals to have these tips, to have these managing skills for them to take them through, to have these outlets to know where to go to see a professional if they need if they needed help. Now the pandemic is just highlighting the importance of mental health in the workplace. And I find that it is very admirable for the Belaifa Corporation Association to be implementing the mental health and showing different businesses, showing individuals that if you need help, just ask, you know, and these are the ways that you can get help.
And from let's just a larger picture for a moment, are people accessing your services more?
Yes, actually we have seen, and what we've seen more an increase of mortgages. People are still buying their homes, you know, and it's very important because when you're renting, okay, you just have to pay your rent and you're good. But when you own a home, there's more planning that has to go in. Remember, you take care of the property, any maintenance that happens, all of those things. So even more so, there is still that need to plan.
Yeah. Okay. And is there limited space available for the webinar?
Well, at this time, it's not. We still have enough space to get people on. We do have an early bird fee cost of $35.
Okay.
And that ends on the 14th of October. The webinar is on the 20th.
Yes.
So for the last week of the webinar, if you wait until the last week, then you pay an extra $5. It's $40 then.
Okay.
And if you want to get, and if you want to sign up, or if you want to get maybe more information, what are the best places to get that info?
So to register, you go to belifa.websites.bz, and then you can walk through from there. If not, you can reach out to any of our Belifa members. Myself, 610-4399, and on the landing page itself of the registrant, then it does have our email address where you can reach out to us.
Okay. All right. Any other information you'd like to share? I'm sure you always have some mental health tips for people.
Well, I always tell people that as helping professionals, we just try to have people get the skills that they need for them to get the best experience out of their lives. So seek out and register for you to have a more holistic view. Register for the Belifa Association webinar. It's going to be exciting. Invest in yourself.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining us and telling us all about the webinar coming up on October 20th. You can register early and take advantage of the early bird rate. And it promises to be beneficial not just to members of Belifa, but to entrepreneurs and others who want to manage ethics in this virtual world. Correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll get an update from Rugby Belize. How have they been managing with their training and following the sport? So please, stay tuned.
The continued fight against COVID-19 requires the continued practice of public health measures across all sectors and in every community. Frequent and proper hand washing, wearing face masks, and physical distancing. Do you know who is not physical distancing? The Aedes aegypti mosquito. Did you know that dengue is the most common mosquito-borne viral disease in the world? So let's get to work. Use window and door screens to keep mosquitoes out. Change the water in vases and scrub inside surfaces to remove mosquito eggs. Avoid using saucers with potted plants to prevent collection of water. Securely cover water barrels and drums with mosquito netting and properly fitted covers. Scrub the inside walls of water barrels and drums with detergent 1 to 2 times per week. Walk around the outside of your home and remove or overturn containers that can collect water and become breeding sites. Mosquitoes only need a small amount of water to lay their eggs. Remove unwanted cans, bottles, buckets, or used tires. Other items still in use must be properly stored in covered areas to avoid water settling in them. Clean roof gutters and air conditioner trays. Debushing and removing tall grass from around your home or establishment is also key to reducing mosquito populations. Fight the bite and protect yourself and your family too from mosquito-borne diseases.
My name is Dr. Gabriela Guerra. I am the wife of Dr. Kevin Rafael Guerra and sister-in-law of Dr. Kenneth Raul Guerra. Both of them passed due to COVID complications on December of 2020. My husband was the first one lose this battle on December 12th, and 18 hours later, my brother-in-law Kenneth passed away also. My husband and my brother-in-law, they was a troublemakers, double trouble. They had a lot of friends there and make a jokes and everything every time. They never take us seriously, nothing. They was very generous people, very compromised with their career. We share a lot of good times and memories that actually fill my heart, no? And I live from my memories and the time we share together. The worst thing about lose a loved one, no? Due to the COVID is your loved one be alone, admitted at a hospital without you, without your cares. You can say bye, you can give the last kiss, you can give the last hug. And that's very painful. think that's the worst thing. I miss the guy shared with me 12 years of my life, the best ones. I miss my son's father, the guy who played with my son every time and tried to teach football techniques to my son. For the ones maybe out there say the COVID not real, okay, or pain, and the pain for everyone who lose a loved one. It's real, okay? The struggle is real. If my husband or my brother-in-law, they maybe at that time could have the opportunity to get the vaccine, they will not have a problem to say, I will get it, okay? I will get my vaccine. So if you have this opportunity, take it. I hope my testimony helped to change something in your mind. And probably take the best decision the next time when the doctor asks to you if you want to take your vaccine. If you don't want to do it for yourself, try to do it for your family, okay? To be safe, for your country.
Cumpleaños feliz, te deseamos a ti.
Hey son, how was your first day at sixth form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends, and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we're just getting our third conversation for this morning started, and we are getting an update from Rugby Belize, and we're talking all about what they have been up to and some of the upcoming events which we can look forward to. And joining us, we have Tony Gillings, who is the president of Rugby Belize, and we also have Aubrey Cock, who is a player from the Rugby Sevens national team. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here.
Yes, and it's great to have you. We were talking a little bit during the break about how things are at the moment because, as we know, rugby, it's a developing sport in Belize, but due to the pandemic and some of the restrictions, we are the ability, I should say, to practice and stuff is somewhat affected. So can we talk a little bit about just what the state of things are right now?
Okay, well, obviously with COVID and the ban on contact sports, we are not allowed to go on the field and train. So all the players have been doing their keep fit stuff at home, doing their own personal keep fit training, doing a lot of running. You might see people running around the streets. That's the rugby players keeping up their mileage because they've all been allocated like 20 miles to run a month or something like that. So that's what they do. They have to keep in shape. It's a pity that we can't do the contact sports because rugby is all about the contact. It's all about the tackling, the scrums and stuff like that. And you need to train those. You need to practice them all the time. So it has been a challenge, a real challenge. And this has been going on now for like 2 weeks previously, but there was a ban on contact sports for almost a year now.
Last year, yeah.
So it has been a real challenge for anybody doing contact sports. But if you're into the sport, you do your own stuff at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this it's a critical time for you. You're preparing for a tournament and you're not allowed to practice together. My question is, how do you get ready to compete and what's your plan?
Yeah, that is a real big challenge because we talk about rugby being a team sport. It's not a one-person sport, it's a team sport. So you have to work together as a team. And when you're not allowed to get out on the field, the only way to really do that is watch videos of rugby games, especially in sevens, there's lots of those. So you learn what other teams are doing, especially our competitors. And then you do video stuff, you talk to each other.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to get out and do non-contact training. We've tried doing that before, but it's very difficult.
What's non-contact training for rugby?
You just practice throwing and kicking the ball around.
Okay.
And for example, a lot of sprinting action and running as well as a group.
Yeah.
For example, our captain's run that we've done throughout Orange Walk, Belize City, San Ignacio.
Yeah.
Those are non-contact, but it's to keep up your general fitness as well and to just keep practicing your skills. Right.
Now, are all the team players vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay. Have you perhaps lobbied to the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Sports to maybe get your own bubble created so that you can train and then be able to be prepared for your competition?
The first time we had this 2-week period of shutdown, I did that. I wrote to the sports minister and I asked him, look, we are training for a big event, but we got no response. So when the last SI came out and it said no contact sports again, I got straight onto the phone to the sports minister and said, please, 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 we have a massive tournament coming up in 2 weeks' time. Please, can we get a waiver? Now, I understand this morning is a cabinet meeting. I understand that the sports minister has taken that request to the cabinet. So hopefully we'll hear something this afternoon which will allow the national team to get together in a bubble and do the training they need.
How many players, and are all, when I say vaccinated, I mean fully vaccinated, 2 shots plus 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay. How many players?
12.
12.
12, yeah.
Do you have a location that you'd be able to kind of establish your own bubble for them?
Well, we have been using Orange Walk an awful lot. There's a stadium there that we've been training in, so I think, and it's fenced, so people can't get into it either. We can close the gate to stop anybody coming in. So probably that's where we'll do it. But we've got less than 2 weeks now, so it's going to be a challenge.
And internationally, how is it? How are people hosting competitions when many countries are fighting a spike in COVID?
Well, this is the reason why this particular tournament, which usually happens every year, most of the countries involved have only been given 2 months' notice it was going to happen. And what with the delay to the Olympics from last year to this year, the ramifications of not allowing countries to compete at these tournaments means that people are not qualifying, nations are not qualifying for the next steps. And this is a qualifier for the World Series. If it doesn't happen this year, the World Series for next year is cancelled. So it's huge, it's a huge domino effect of all of these things.
Right. Now tell us about what's it like for you. Clearly you want to get back to practicing, but you said you're also just running a whole lot.
Yes. The way I like to think of it and explain it to people who aren't familiar with rugby, I would say it's a combination with the running that you see in our football and the time. For example, in rugby sevens, you have 2 7-minute halves within a game, and the clock consistently goes, and there really isn't a stoppage unless the referee allows it or there's an injury, right? So whatever happens in the game, it happens. So you have to have that stamina to continuously run.
Yeah.
But we also incorporate some of the physical contact that you see in American football.
Yeah.
Right?
Without the gear.
Without the gear.
Yeah.
But contrary to what may be seen out there, we do practice to tackle safely. We're shown techniques on proper tackling, and we also have our referee there. He enforces good safety measures. For example, you can't, if someone jumps up to get the ball, you can't just grab them and pull them out the air, and you can't tackle someone above their shoulders. It's a big penalty, right? Okay. So, contrary to what you may have seen, we try to be as safe as possible, and a big aspect of it as well is that we respect the word of the referee. Yeah. So once we're out on the field, whatever he say goes. And unlike other sports, we're drilled that you aren't even to look at him too harshly.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rugby.
Is that your training or is that rugby training?
That's rugby training.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the tenets of rugby that because it's a physical contact sport, that the players are not allowed to question the referee. Okay. When he blows the whistle to stop the game, that's it. Now, that doesn't mean the referee knows everything. The referees are assessed after the game, and if they think there's been a wrong call, then that's dealt with. But in order to stop friction and confrontation on the rugby field, the only players allowed to talk to the referee are the captains and a player that's been given a penalty. That's it.
Now, how long have you been playing rugby?
I would say about 2 years now.
And what attracted you to it?
Well, what actually, I grew up in the States, and so again, I was familiar with American football, and now my sister-in-law, she just mentioned it to me like, hey, there's this guy, Tony Gillings, and he's running this rugby program, and it's like American football, so go try it. And I was like, okay, let's see. And I took it lightly because, you think what you're playing is the toughest sport. Now, when I got out there, and they started running past me, I'm like, Jesus. Jesus help me. Right? So it's from there I realized how tough it was, and it became a sort of personal challenge, to get better. And there's a lot of differences between the two sports, and it's very technique oriented as well too. Contrary to just your tackling and whatnot, the passing requires a specific way. They have certain formations which we call scrums and lineouts. Those are what is affecting us with the no contact drill, because those are specific techniques that we need to practice in order to do it well, right? For example, a lineout, the gist of it is when the ball goes out of bounds and you throw it back in, a maneuver we do is that we actually lift the guy up into the air in order to grab the ball. See, that's something that we have to be able to practice safely.
Yeah.
Right?
And coordinate.
So, so that was kind of actually going to be my next question about what has kept you and the other guys, I guess, motivated throughout all this time when there have been so much restrictions on practicing, and how do you keep dedicated to the sport?
I think one of the great things about rugby is it builds a team spirit, it builds a camaraderie, a brotherhood amongst the players, because you're on the field in a dangerous environment, you can get injured. So the chemistry between the players is really good, it's really strong. And once you get into it, you either hate it or you love it. And everybody that's in it right now, all the players, they love it. They love being on the field with their teammates, they love the camaraderie, the spirit. And it's a personal challenge, as Audrey was saying. Yeah. You want to get better because you're part of a team, and the team is only as strong as the weakest part. So that's the reason they keep at it.
So this is our national team that you've put together. But Tony, let's not forget, it's been less than a decade since you introduced, is it?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
That since you started to introduce your rugby program, and it was kind of just come to this park and try out this game.
Yeah.
How surprised are you to see the interest that's grown, the level of training that these guys have put in, and now to be at this phase of competition?
It was, I always knew that rugby would work here. Why? Because we have a young country. Like half the population is under the age of 25 or something. So there's a lot of youth out there, right? And there's not a lot of real active sports where you get organized. There's lots of basketball and football, but it's just kids getting together on a street corner or something doing it. But an organized sport is what was missing. And rugby provides that. And I am kind of surprised about how fast it grew, but then I realized, well, yeah, but why not? Rugby is a noble sport. It's one of those things where you get into and you love it and you want to succeed in it. So we have now 6 teams across the country plus the national team. We got into RAN, which is Rugby Americas North, our regional governing body, in 3 years. That's unheard of. But they could see the potential and the growth. And now the national team we have, they're really good. They're a really strong team. I have a lot of confidence that they're going to do very well in this tournament. And this is the very first time that Belize has entered this tournament.
Yeah.
Like,
Is this, I mean, it's the first time we'll have a rugby national team.
Well, we had one in 2018, don't forget, because we played Guatemala here,
Yes.
right, in Belize City. That was our very first international, but that was a friendly.
Yeah, but it wasn't a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
This tournament is when we start getting ranked as a nation in terms of world rugby.
Yeah.
So this is a really crucial one for us, and there are 10 countries involved in this particular tournament.
Yeah, and what's that sort of, that aspect of the journey has been like, you know, from starting it to also now getting it to the point where we can actually compete internationally?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm over the moon. I'm delighted because when
You don't have to watch it on TV anymore. You see it first. That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. But from the day when I arrived here, and I was just walking around carrying a rugby ball, and kids were saying "hut hut," and I said, "No, this is rugby." And what's that?
Yeah.
From those days to right now, it's been a phenomenal growth, and I'm really delighted. I'm very happy with it. And I'm excited to see what the lads can achieve when they get to Turks and Caicos now, because this is going to be important for them.
Yeah.
You know, because when you talk about player pathways and player development, you can play local district teams and all the rest of it, but if you're serious about it, you want to get on the national team because you want to do it internationally. So yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm very happy.
Yeah, you'll need to compete with people better than you if
Yes,
you want to
absolutely,
grow.
absolutely, yeah.
And what's the level of training like? You said you played other sports before. How does rugby compare?
Well, for us, our motto is, if he dies, he dies. You got on the field. You got on the field. You willingly came, jokingly, yes. Right? We try to be safe.
You know how many consent forms are not going to be signed by parents?
Yes, but like I say, it's really intense because even amongst ourselves on the team, we have a lot of competitive guys here, and me being on the team, it's always been a quest to do better, you know, run further, do more workouts, lift more weights, things like that. We ourselves try as hard to beat ourselves into the best fitness we can get to, you know?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I find that interesting, kind of the combination of training, because you're working cardio, like football.
Yeah.
But that usually is kind of like slender, athletic, and then you're training like American football, where you have to have the muscular strength, the tackle.
Absolutely. And you need that as well, because when you see a rugby game and you see the guys getting tackled, it's the bulk that protects the body from the tackle. But also, I mean, because you train players how to fall when they're tackled and how to tackle, you mitigate a lot of what people perceive to be the dangers. Because if you know how to fall the right way, you're not going to be taken by surprise when you get tackled. Because you have to learn to fall in the right way in order to pass the ball backwards. You can't just land on the ground and give the ball up. So there's a tactic there, right? And if you say there's only 2 ways you can tackle a player, that cuts out all the unnecessary stuff that goes on in American football, where it looks like they just grab hold of someone and throw them on the ground. In rugby, you can't do that. There are only 2 ways you can bring a player down. So all of that is training.
Since your exposure, have you developed your favorite team, players you follow?
Yes, well, I'm more used to, of course, I have a bias towards the USA team. But there are great teams out there, and we're going to go with Fiji, for example. They're an excellent team. South Africa, they're usually a great contender. New Zealand, England. And we have, for example, recently we were watching Kenya perform in the Rugby Sevens, and they were doing excellent as well. But our favorites for the upcoming tournament actually was, I believe, Mexico and Jamaica. They're also participating in the tournament, and we heard that one week that they were going to be in there, so I thought that even though it would be their B team or something, but come to find out it's actually the team that was participating in the World Series that's coming to this tournament as well. So we're facing really top class athletes here, you know.
So let me ask you the question, are we going to simply showcase a team, or are we competing?
We're competing. We're in Pool C. And we've got 3 countries in that group which are slightly more experienced than us. I wouldn't necessarily say they're better than us, because having watched a few of their videos, I know that their skill level is not as high as people are making it out to be. So I think we could get out of Pool C. The question then is, who do we face from the other 2 pools? Mexico is in one, Jamaica's in the other. And they are tier 2, so they're very experienced Rugby Sevens countries. They've just finished participating in the Edmonton round of the World Series. So they're pretty good. But no, I think, you see, the thing is, when you look at these teams, you've got to think of the dedication, the training, the attitude of the players that are in the team, right? If you've got a good, strong team, we are at the same point that Fiji were 10 years ago or more. You know, they started playing rugby in the Pacific Rim group of competitions, and they got better and better and better and stronger because they built a really strong team. So you can have a team that's been playing rugby for 20 or 30 years, but the team on the day is what counts. And if you've got a really strong, disciplined team that knows what they're doing, you can go as far as they can get. No problem.
So who's our captain? And let's say a shout out to the rest of your teammates, the national teammates.
Raheem Cummings. He's our captain from the Orange Walk Black Mambas.
Okay.
Right, he represents all of us, and I believe he really shows the spirit of the team itself, because he's always there, he's dedicated, he willingly puts in the work. So I gotta give him credit. And we have a lot of guys from Orange Walk. The Black Mambas make up a good percentage of the team, and they're all excellent players as well. You know, they can run. And that's one thing I can respect about them. They can really run. We also have members from Coyote Bayman, right? We have the Baymen out there. And last but not least, we also have the Belize City Vikings.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So, Tony, you are hoping for good news that the team will be able to get together and train?
Yes. Fingers crossed, everything, yeah. I mean, the last time I put in a letter, I worded it as strongly as I could to get the point across, but nothing happened. This time I've spoken to the sports minister, and I really feel that they know that this competition is coming up now. We've had a lot of publicity, they know it's going to happen. It's a big thing, not just for rugby, but for Belize.
Yeah.
Right? We've never done this before. This is their first time. So to be told you can't do it will hinder the team. And I don't want that to happen. I want them to get out there and train. So fingers crossed.
Well, keep us posted.
We
and
will.
keep on training.
Yeah, good luck and good luck. You know, we hope that that does work out for you.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it. Now you can get back to your workouts, right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take that final break. When we come back, we have Trending Tuesdays with Gavin. So stay tuned.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department, takes this opportunity to remind insured persons of the requirements for compensation when on sick leave. Any employee who has worked with an employer for at least 2 months is entitled to 16 working days of sick leave with full pay every year. This is how it works. Upon approval of a sickness or injury benefit claim by SSD, 80% of the employee's weekly insurable earnings is paid as a Social Security benefit, and the difference in the employee's salary is paid by the employer. This is to ensure that the employee does not suffer any loss of wages when ill. After 16 days, compensation for sick leave is paid as a Social Security benefit only. Some conditions apply. This message is brought to you by the Social Security Board and the Labor Department. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun. With eCash, we can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
Belize at 40. Hopeful hearts, steady hands, together we rise. The entire SMART family wishes all Belizeans a safe and happy September celebrations. SMART, bringing people together.
And we are back. And if you're joining us right now, we are just getting our show a little bit wrapped up. But before we do that, we have got some trending talk to talk all about what has been going on social media, both here and abroad. Now, I have to talk about it, and I'm sure that you probably experienced it, especially if you're watching on Facebook right now. You know that yesterday there was a social media blackout. Facebook and all of their related companies, WhatsApp, Instagram, were down for several hours yesterday, and people were having a tough time coping with that. But if you're like me, like I said earlier on in the show, if you use Twitter, and some other social media and messaging apps, you found that some of those are still available, and you couldn't stop the memes from coming out. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite memes that came out from yesterday. As we see, ESPN we got this picture of Usain Bolt saying that this is Twitter leaving Facebook and Instagram behind. This happens quite a lot if you're on Twitter again. Sometimes you see the hashtag Facebook down, Instagram down. So all of us people, we're always looking at the memes, we're always enjoying it, and we're always laughing at the people who don't usually use Twitter, because there's also memes about that. And as you see here, Twitter itself tweeted, "Hello, literally everyone." That tweet got 3.1 million likes. Of course, that was one of the most popular ones, as you could see. Actually, a lot of big social media and other companies were tweeting and sharing some funny statuses about the blackout yesterday as well. So we've also got this one. So that was about, I was in the middle of an argument. Now Instagram is down and now they think that they've won. I hope none of you guys are in that position because, taking that L cannot be easy. We've also got Twitter looking down at everyone else, Facebook, Instagram, everybody's being down. And that's what everybody was more or less experiencing yesterday. We've also got some local tweets. This is one from @PGanwani, that's Pal Ganwani, talking about how iMessage users were looking down at people who couldn't WhatsApp. If you're Team iPhone like me, you didn't have as much as a problem yesterday. So I'm not saying that I was one of those guys, but I was definitely laughing at a lot of those memes. There's also some memes talking about that they made from Squid Game. That's another thing that has been trending. That is a new show that's coming out from South Korea, and it is it's huge. It's just exploded over the past 2 weeks. It's on track to become one of Netflix's most popular shows of all time. If you haven't watched it, Squid Game is a show about people who are competing for a huge cash prize, but they're playing some children's games in order to get closer to the prize. And if you didn't know, I'm not going to give it away. I actually just started streaming this over the weekend. I'm just at episode 3, so even when I talk about this, I have to make sure. I was looking for some memes and stuff. I was trying to avoid some spoilers. But I'll just say that the stakes are pretty high. But Squid Game is Squid Game is huge. Millions and millions and millions of people have been watching it all over the world. And it is, of course, a great show. And so we've got some memes coming out from there talking about people who are, this guy says he's tired and waking up and working for someone else. So he's ordered the Squid Game suit so he can compete. We've got some more memes talking about this guy, talking about he hasn't seen him charge his phone once in 4 days. That one, there's a spoiler there, so I can't give that one fully away. But of course, Squid Game is great. I'll probably be finished it by the end of the week, if not, by tomorrow. If you have been watching, let us know what you think of that. It's a pretty cool show. Here's another one from yesterday during the social media blackout, talking about that's from DJ Smurf, saying that since WhatsApp is down, you got to hit him up through eCash. I don't know if that was successful, but if it is, I'm going to try that one out myself. So ignore what I said about iMessage earlier. If WhatsApp is down again, just take a leaf out of DJ Smurf's book and hit me up on eCash. Now, another interesting thing that happened over the weekend on Twitter was some interesting tweets from KFC Barbados. Last week, we spoke a little bit about we talked about a fast food survey about some of the most popular and unpopular fast food restaurants. KFC was somewhere on the list. And interestingly enough, KFC's Barbados Twitter account was going off this weekend, sharing some, firing back at people. So talking about KFC is trash, and then they reply, but when your man eats by me, he keeps coming back. So there was a lot of funny tweets that they were sending out this weekend. This one, savage, right? Talking about their wings are dry, and they respond saying their chicken is dry and thirsty like that weave. And then of course, this one was the one that I saw first that started making the big rounds and was retweeted a lot. That somebody was talking about Chefette, which is another popular fast food chain in Barbados. And so they were talking about their wings, and KFC is saying that KFC would never send wings like that are musty and dry. And they're asking if they're fried in baby oil. But super savage, super funny. Of course, that happens every now and again. A big company takes some social media, some risk with social media. Maybe they go viral, and look, we're talking about it now. So KFC, we got to see if they live up to the hype. Let's hope that they can back up a lot of their strong words. Now, there's one final topic that we have to talk about, and again, if you're watching from Facebook, you already probably know what I'm going to talk about. This captivated the whole of the Belizean Facebook audience this weekend. There were thousands and thousands of streams. There were several live videos, and it was all talking about this situation with Tanga, Mary Beth, and Lisa. Of course, there was a whole lot of drama. There was, there was a love triangle. There was obia. There was all kinds of things that were going about. It had everybody captivated. Combined, all of the different live videos were viewed over 10,000 times by people in Belize, and of course, there have been lots of memes springing out about it. And as you can see right here, people have been making TikTok videos about it. People have been making all sorts of things. See, there's another funny one. Because, of course, we know that, there's a reason that Tanga himself couldn't have been part of this whole back and forth that was going on social media. And we check out some funny TikToks this morning because everybody has been talking about him. But yeah. Yep.
I think you're supposed to dance too.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, enjoying being the topic of conversation. But of course, this was you can call it like a snowstorm on social media from this weekend. We can't, of course, repeat a lot of what was said in any of the videos based on the nature. And if you watch it, you probably know why. I won't even lie, I wasn't fully aware of what was going on. I just kind of got caught into the mix. I saw some of it, and then I'm not gonna lie myself, I was quite entertained as well. So
was it a consequence of the Sunday lockdown? That's the question.
I think that's the main thing that was going on, right?
So
everybody
you had nothing else to do.
Yeah, and then. So of course I got caught up in what was going on as well. But I'll see if there's going to be any more developments. I mean, everybody seems to be following that.
For sure. Well, I think there was another round of lives that took place. But yeah, I was telling you before we started, kind of feels like how everyone got caught up in the situationship with Jada and Will Smith at one point. We just love relationship drama for some very sick reason. But I got to say though, love Squid Games.
Oh,
definitely do. And I almost want to spoil it for you, but it was really interesting. I binged it.
I'm only 2 episodes in.
Yeah, so let me tell you what happens, right? No, but I also thought, interestingly, it's just perfect timing. The easiest Halloween costumes you can come up with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Have you figured out which one you'll be?
Well, I don't want to be too obvious and just wear the red suit, but I don't know. There's a lot. I don't know. But the thing is, maybe when I finish watching the show, then I'll know for sure.
Yeah. I want to see if you're going to go the VIP route. You'll go with number 1, or you'll go with 456.
Yeah.
Or you can always choose between triangle, circle, or square. Right?
Or the doll.
The doll. Now that's actually spooky. That's actually been recreated. Is it in Philippines? I'm not sure where, but they actually installed one at a stoplight. So it's like your crosswalk. Red light, green light.
Well, if you watch the show, you would know why that would be a serious deterrent from people actually trying to run the red light.
All right, but great trending Tuesdays as per usual.
Yeah, oh, well, thanks. I try to keep updated, and I like, I'm always trying to keep updated with what's going on social media. And if you want us to talk about something, please let us know. And if you got memes or anything, I like to laugh. We all like to laugh. So send them in. And maybe you get to see your own meme or your own tweet or your own TikTok featured on the show.
Yeah. All right, but that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ.
And you can also find us on Instagram at OIE
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country